Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited about today's topic. So, today we're talking about the best natural intervention for people who suffer from anxiety. And anxiety, I think, is often misunderstood when we use that label of anxiety. What does that exactly mean? For some people, it is a heightened state of racing heart rate and a lot of physiological reactions. And they're going through this sometimes for hours almost every day. It was really debilitating. I've had clients who couldn't even get out of bed in the morning because there was just no drive and no will left against all these physical manifestations that they were having. For other people, anxiety is thought of as more something that they find maybe once or twice a month or even less often than that, usually workplace oriented, or perhaps they're having trouble in a relationship with their spouse. And so they'll get some periods of anxiety, but it's not nearly as debilitating and they can still lead a relatively normal and healthy life. But regardless, whether you're at one end of the extreme or the other, if you're dealing with any kind of anxiety, I want you to understand from this video what the best intervention is going to be for you. Before I get into all of the great information I have, let's first please click like so you can support the video and get this out to more people in the algorithm, and also subscribe so I can get you more great content like this on holistic health, natural health, wellness, fitness, and longevity. All right, so let me go ahead and get into this. Now, keep in mind my background. Over the last 30 years, I have worked a lot with people who, as I mentioned, either had anxiety or depression, or sometimes people who are just very mentally healthy, but just wanted to get more physically fit and help to keep themselves out of the hospital and free from injury and medication as they get older. They didn't want to age in the way that most people age. So I've been working with hundreds and hundreds of people of all different types of psychological behaviors. And the thing that I've found commonly, and this is very science backed as well, but what I found commonly is when someone comes to me with any state of depression or anxiety, where it's fairly debilitating and it's a concern and it's something that they bring up with me right away in the program onset, that almost always, I mean, I'm hard pressed to find any situations here where once they began eating the right plan, and I don't mean generally healthy foods. Okay, I mean the right plan, getting the omega 3s close to accurate, getting the protein close to accurate. Meal timing is sometimes a factor. Once we hone in all those variables on nutrition and on exercise, and I'll get more into those variables in a moment, but once they get those right for several weeks, they really see a tremendous decrease in anxiety symptoms. Not only do they feel the anxiety a lot less frequently, but when they do have it, the severity is a lot less. It's a much more manageable situation. Now, the times that I haven't really seen this be the case were generally when someone was on a bit of a different series of cocktails of medications where they were constantly being tweaked, where one med was going to come up for a little while, then it's going to come down, and then this med comes up. And when you're doing that, I find that we generally don't see as good of results. I really believe that that is just simply because the med management is constantly recalibrating the body and the physiology and hormone secretion. And so I think in a case like that, we don't always see exercise and nutrition play quite as big a role in really in negating some of these anxiety symptoms. But also, it's when people don't really follow the science all that well. Let me give you a quick example of what doesn't work. Let's say someone comes to me and they have anxiety, and I suggest, okay, here's the program we need to put together, and here's how we're going to progress from week to week. If they don't take it all that seriously, if they're sporadic, they have a good week and a bad week and then a kind of week, and nutrition was good one day but then bad for 3 days, when it's that inconsistent, just like with anything in life, you can't really expect to see much out of it. And historically, when I look back on clients or anyone who was at a wellness center, where I used to run a wellness center long ago, anyone who would come in and just not really be able to confidently state, yes, I'm following my program solidly, they were the ones who didn't really do so well. Everybody else has done remarkably well. And again, the science really backs this up. There are numerous studies on what both cardiovascular exercise and strength exercise can do for a body when you have the right consistency and the right intensities and durations. And again, I'm going to get into those details in just a moment here. The same can be said for nutrition. That if you just say, I'm going to generally eat better, I'm going to try to choose what I think of as healthier foods, the reason that's not really going to work very often is that nutrition has so many components to it. Think about it. Nutrition is about omega 3 intake, it's about your macros, it's about the quality of those macros, meaning if your body needs 100 grams of protein and you give it 100, but it's poor quality protein, that's not going to be so great, so fantastic for you either, frankly. That's really not going to give you what your body needs. So it's getting all those different variables right. And then also there's something to be said for meal timing so that your protein is spread out a little bit and that your carbs are being spread out. Glycemic index is of concern. Supplementation, because no matter how well you're eating in the year 2024, unfortunately, our food is so far removed from nature at this point, where boron levels and everything else are just not where they used to be, that even then you still need some supplementation no matter how well you're eating. So what I'm saying is there's a whole lot of variables. And for someone to just say, well, I tried exercise for a few weeks and nutrition, and that didn't really do it. So anxiety's still here. So I'm not going to continue. That's the wrong attitude, because if you really do go deep, and again, you want to work with the right coach, but if you go deep on these variables, you're going to be successful in almost every case. There are very few cases that I've seen, and even statistically speaking, where they don't at least see some significant improvement. All right, so let me get a little bit more into the variables now. We just talked a little bit about nutrition and omega-3s and some of the components that go into nutrition, quality, and meal timing. Let me talk a little bit more now about exercise, because here's where a lot of people really go wrong. I've seen people say, well, you know what? I tried exercise and it didn't do much for me. And I'll say, what did you do? And they say, well, I try to go to yoga every week, once a week, and I go for walks every night. Okay, well, once a week isn't much modality. So that's our first problem, is once a week isn't generally going to be enough to really create sustainable, significant, noticeable change. And then as far as the walks go, while you can get some benefit from just a 10 or 15-minute walk if it's somewhat brisk, a lot of times you do need longer walks, and maybe even more than just being somewhat brisk. We might need to get into zone 1 or even zone 2 cardio, which is a little bit more huffing and puffing and a little bit more challenge to the body. We might need to get into that kind of deliberate intensity in order to really create the physiological change, the hormone response, the central nervous system adaptations, and all the changes that happen in response to exercise. So you really want to go into lifestyle change and exercise science and nutrition with, firstly, a good coach. I can't stress that enough. A really good coach is really what you're going to need. Someone who can talk you through the dark times and also keep modifying and tweaking your program, because that's really what success comes down to in anything lifestyle and health related. You don't just really get a program and then just follow a routine and be successful. That routine needs progression, and it needs all the right tweaks and modifications. And every now and then, you're going to need like a really hard shift where it changes radically, where, okay, we're going to dump all these exercises and switch over to these. That has to happen as well. So what I would say is that if you are dealing with anxiety, think about the commitment level that you're willing to put in. Actually think about how much time and effort you're willing to put into lifestyle change. Because when it comes down to it, lifestyle change is the one positive that doesn't have any negatives to it. Not only will it address your anxiety, but it'll do so in a way very different than medication. Medication almost always has to leave some negative byproduct in your physiology. There's some level, if you go deep enough, of toxicity. There's some level of harm to organs, even if it's brief. There's almost no such thing as a completely 100% safe medication with no risks, no damage whatsoever, especially when you're on multiple meds, which a lot of people tend to be at some point if they're managing their anxiety with medication. So I'm not saying don't be on medications. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is if you're looking for a very, very safe intervention that is very effective when done right, that has no negative byproducts as long as you do it effectively, and that is also going to lead to significant other benefits in your life as well: longevity, staying off of other meds, cholesterol management, blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. When you realize that lifestyle change can do all those things and then some, you realize that that is really where you want to put your time, your effort, your finances. That's where you want to go to help yourself manage anxiety and reduce anxiety and hopefully beat anxiety so that you can have a happier, healthier life. So as always, everyone, if you'd like to get my help uniquely on a more personalized level where we can go deep on your exact variables that make up your psychology and your lifestyle and all your physiological needs, you can reach out to me down below. My contact information is there. I would love to hear from you. Additionally, I've got some great downloads here and some files in the description as well that can help you a lot, especially if you're also looking for weight management. I've got a 10-question quiz you can take that's going to help you a lot to figure out if your methods are likely to be effective and sustainable for the long run. As always, everyone, I'm wishing you the best in terms of mental health and physical health, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.